Okay, good evening and welcome to the special Yuba County Board of Supervisors meeting on Monday, December 6th at 6 p.m. No other business shall be conducted at this meeting. The public shall have an opportunity to address the Board of Supervisors only with respect to items set forth on this agenda. Each individual or group will be limited to no more than 3 minutes. Prior to this time, speakers are requested to fill out a request to speak card and submit it to the clerk of the Board of Supervisors. When the time comes, if you're participating via Zoom, you can use the Zoom raise hand feature or *9 to indicate that you wish to comment. And if you're here in the room, we would appreciate you filling out a request to speak card. So we'll start off with roll call.
Supervisor Vasquez.
Here.
Supervisor Blazer.
Here.
Supervisor Fuhr.
Here.
Supervisor Bradford.
Here.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. First up is under ordinances and public hearings. If you challenge in court the action or decision of the Yuba County Board of Supervisors regarding a zoning, planning, land use, or environmental protection matter made at any hearing described in this notice, you may be limited to raising only those issues you or someone else raised at such hearing or in written correspondence delivered to the Yuba County Board of Supervisors at or prior to such hearing. Public comments will be limited to 3 minutes per individual or group. The first item up is 606-2021. County Administrator hold a public hearing to receive public input on district boundaries and draft maps and receive a report from staff on the redistricting process and provide direction to staff as needed.
Yes. Good evening, Chair, members of the board. Kevin Mallon, Yuba County Administrator. So just by way of brief background, this was an item that was discussed at the board's November 9th meeting. We had a workshop in the afternoon of the 9th where staff presented to the board 2 options that had been initially developed based on the need to have equal population representation for the 5 board districts. And at that meeting, we also discussed the fact that we can't just leave the districts the way they are currently because there's an imbalance. We had more growth in a couple of the districts versus the others. So there was feedback at that workshop, as well as the county's been receiving email feedback through the counties. The county has a web page dedicated to redistricting. We've had a little over 30 emails received to date. Commenting on these 2 options, as well as a week after the workshop, and it's the map that I have in front of you here, we developed a 3rd option based on the feedback that we'd received to date that was pushed out the week before Thanksgiving. So some of our email comments have been on this 3rd option as well. And I wanted to, before we kind of get into a conversation about the 3 options, I wanted to walk the board through option 3 that was developed based on the feedback received. So I'm gonna walk through this. I'm gonna zoom in. This is an interactive map that's on the county's webpage, on the redistricting webpage. I'm gonna start with District 1, which is in, I guess we'll call that pink. And it essentially follows can the board members see that okay on your screen? All right, I can zoom in a little bit more here. The proposed boundary under this option 3 would follow basically the city limit boundary for the city of Marysville, and then follow along the highway. The highway would essentially be the dividing line between District 1 and the other districts. And that would continue down to a point. This is essentially farmland, but this is the historic, it was Clark Slough. It was a natural waterway and followed that, but following parcel lines up to Earl Road, and then Earl Road to a boundary here that, as we talked about in the previous workshops, we try our best to try and follow other special district boundaries so that we don't end up with kind of odd ballot types at the election for elections. And so we kind of worked on a boundary that kind of made sense here, taking into account other special districts that followed along and then tied back into the city limits here. Just by kind of frame of reference, this area is essentially river bottoms area, but you have, for example, this is where the Flea Market Raceway is. This area in here is where Peachtree Country Club is, but essentially that's a kind of a, there's not much in the way of residences there. There's just businesses and farming within that floodway. But predominantly what you see with this this option is for the Linda area to the east of Highway 70 is all captured within District 1. And then I'm going to move on to District 2, where this is where there was a conversation at that board's workshop. We had options 1 and 2. Option 1 it has had this district just growing to the south. Option 2 had this district growing to the north. And so there was conversation, the pros and cons of those two. And so this is kind of a blend of those two based on the input that was received. And so this would, and I'm going to zoom out here, this would, District 2 would remain, you know, at its core, it represented the city of Marysville. And so you have the entire city limits represented by District 2. And then in addition, and this is where I'm going to zoom out, you have essentially the entire kind of eastern edge of Yuba County. Following this straight line here is the railroad tracks. So everything to the west of the railroad tracks, which is typically referred to as the District 10 area. It's also which is a reclamation district, but the District 10 area would be represented within the District 2 area, everything to the west of those railroad tracks. And then District 2 would continue to represent, I'm going to zoom in here, a portion of West Linda. Again, the boundary would be along Highway 70. So everything to the southwest of Highway 70 down to generally to Grand Avenue in the West Linda area. And again, we had to make some adjustments in this in West Linda on where was kind of an appropriate defining line between what would be District 2 and what would be District 3, based on trying to balance out neighborhoods and population within the two districts. So that's kind of my walkthrough on Districts 1 and 2. Now that naturally goes to District 3 here, which would abut both Districts 2 and 1, as we described. And then the District 3 boundary would follow the Highway 70 and then Highway 65 corridor down to essentially what's Reed's Creek. Again, the creek kind of meanders through these parcels, but we picked up along parcel lines. You don't want to divide parcels with the district boundaries. And it also includes, I'm going to zoom in, a little area just to the east of Highway 65 where there's some residences just north of McGowan Parkway there, as well as a business that's kind of typically included in the Olivers community. Again, trying to keep the Olivers community as intact as possible because it's historically been represented by District 3. So following along from that Reed's Creek area up Highway 70, this is Plumas-Arboga Road would be kind of your projection across, and then following the railroad tracks up, this line here, it would be kind of the projection of Ella Avenue across. There's a natural kind of separation between neighborhoods here. This is where there's a high voltage power line that runs through, and so the kind of the neighborhoods to the north and south of here aren't connected physically, and it looked like a nice natural separation between the District 3 boundary, and then to the south would be the District 4 boundary. So I will zoom back out a bit on that, and that illustrate that would be that southern boundary of District 3, which would then be the northern boundary of District 4. Now, District 4 then would be predominantly the Plumas Lake area, and then kind of all lands from Plumas Lake over up to Highway 65, and then it would take in the city limit of the city of Wheatland, so to not bifurcate that city into more than one district. It needs to be, it's recommended that a city not be split intentionally. And so that it would stay all within District 4. And then this area, this is essentially Dry Creek. So this was another area where there was residents in here that are kind of fit best with the community of Wheatland, although not within the incorporated area of Wheatland. And so that would essentially be the District 4 area. I'm going to zoom back out so you can kind of see graphically what that looks like. And so that brings us to District 5, which is basically the rest of the county. And so that would include the community of Camp Far West, the areas to the east of Highway 65, which would include the ag industrial area that we refer to as our employment village. This is Beale Air Force Base's boundary. So Beale Air Force Base in its entirety would be within District 5. We did our best that District 5 would not include any of the urban area within Oliver's or Linda, and then as I mentioned before, and nothing within the city of Wheatland. So I'm going to zoom back out to kind of illustrate that it's a pretty large footprint for District 5, but that's the footprint necessary in order to have that population balance, which, as a reminder, is about 16,300 people for each district. Maybe I'll pause there and get some board. Actually, before I get board feedback on this, just as a reminder of process. So the reason why we're meeting tonight and the reason why things are a bit truncated on the timeline is the census information. It needed to be kind of, I guess, scrubbed for accuracy would be my best way to describe it with the state. And the state made some adjustments. And we really didn't get the information until this fall. So we were kind of kicking off the process this September. We didn't receive the final information from the state till October. We had that workshop with the board November 9th, made some adjustments the following week with this third option here. And this is all culminating in the by December 14th, the December 14th board meeting. We're going to have a special workshop at 1:30. We need to have the board adopt a map so that on December 15th, people that want to file and run for offices know the district boundaries for the primaries in 2022. So it's a fairly truncated timeline. And the other part that kind of plays into this is if whatever map the board plans on adopting on December 14th needs to be available for the public to view at least 7 days prior. So the recommendation of staff is that hopefully one of the three options that have been presented and developed makes sense to the board. Otherwise, we're going to be working late tonight trying to figure out how to put that map together so that it's available for 7 days for the public so that the board can take action then on December 14th. So I think that's about enough on process, and happy to answer any questions the board has.
The chair, I think we had to increase the car allowance for District 5. Looks good, Kevin. Couldn't ask for a better. It actually is logical. You have to fight those urges again.
Through the chair, can we make the most minor of adjustments for purely sentimental reasons?
Did we miss something? It sounds like a loaded question. I need to zoom in. Sure.
My granddaddy lives just a little bit north of my district line on Arboga. So if you can just switch it over just a little bit where you're at right there.
Is this the West Linda area?
Yeah. If you can just move that over to the Arboga from where it's at, then that would be great.
Frankly, that was one area of conversation on where best to have that dividing line between District 2 and
you know what?
District.
I'm on the left side of Arboga. You're good. think it's
We're
fine.
good?
I think
Granddaddy's
so.
okay?
I
All
think
right.
Granddaddy's all right. Let me check the map again.
Okay, that's.
So through the
that's a
chair.
3 for you and 3 for me.
Through the chair, this is a bubble that you push, and as you push one, it changes everything. I do believe that map number 3 really makes the most sense. Unfortunately, it turns out to be the very largest district, and moving forward, I'm kind of following Andy's thought that there should be some adjustment future-wise that talks about how do you compensate whoever's in there to make sure that it's not actually costing them a great deal of dollars to cover that district. Maybe a county car might be better than take away the allowance, be glad to give that up, and then you can cover that territory. Prior to this, I was running 2,000 to 3,000 miles a month just in the prior district. This could easily run in greater than that without any problem at all. So just a thought. I think this is very appropriate. The communities are similar. It makes the most sense. You'll never hit it perfect, but that's as good as it gets. So I think you've done a great job by putting this one together.
Can you zoom in again? So I guess my question is there's a highway there that divides it, but the right side of the highway the right side of the Arboga Road would not be in the district, but the left side would be, but there's a highway that divides. That wouldn't be a better dividing line than having just half of a street on one side and half of the street in the other?
It's the population that's the problem. You got high density there.
So are you referring specifically on
Yep.
Arboga Road?
Yep,
So
yep.
you have one side of Arboga Road versus the other side. And I know when you really, that there was a lot of conversation about this particular, like what's the most appropriate way to.
It has to cut off its streets, not at like backyards is the issue.
Yes, you try not to do that. So
So somebody everywhere, people are gonna be split by streets, one side would go. Because the highway is just a very natural dividing line there. But I see what you're saying.
So I would just add that I think staff did an excellent job taking into account all the feedback that was received at the previous meeting and on the internet. I know we've posted all that feedback, and as mentioned, it's not easy. You change the boundary one place and it bumps it someplace else, and so you might be able to address feedback from one group and then potentially create opportunities for additional feedback from another group. But I think it makes a lot of sense, this particular map. So I think it is a time to hear from the public next.
Yep.
Any additional board comments at this point before we hear from the public?
3 looks fine with me. I could go with 2 or 3, but I'm just, whatever I had to say would be pretty picky. So I think 3 is just fine with me.
Okay, so we'll start with, first I'll open the public hearing. I'm not sure if I've done that. So, and we'll start with any public comment from here in the room. Is there any public comment? Does anyone in the room like to speak? Okay, please come up to the podium.
and I'll stay here in case we need to move the map
Okay.
around.
And if you could make sure and speak into the microphone so that those on Zoom can hear.
Hi, my name's Julie Bowen, and I live in District 5 for option 3. I live out in Hallwood. I think that Hallwood should be included in the foothill area. We have a lot of the same problems that the foothill area has as far as connectivity, and we live on acreage, and I feel like that makes more sense than dividing it up into the Marysville area. So as a resident of Hallwood and someone that wants to represent Hallwood, I would really like to see the option 3 so that we stay in District 5. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. Any additional comments in the room? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to ask on Zoom. If you're on Zoom and you'd like to comment, please use the Zoom raise hand feature, or if you're on a phone, you can do *9. If you have your camera on and you can't figure out how to use the raise hand feature, you can physically raise your hand as well. Do we have any comments on Zoom, Mary? No, I don't see any, but okay. Hearing no comments on Zoom, I will close the public hearing and we'll bring it back to the board for any additional discussion and a motion.
Through the chair, Kevin, can you zoom in on Hallwood? I'd like to know exactly where that is.
Yes. So just as frame of reference, so this is the Marysville city limits. And this odd area you see right here is the Recology former landfill current processing area for solid waste. So that area is within the city limits. And then this is Highway 20 and running out. So Hallwood's predominantly this area right here. This would be Woodruff Lane coming across, and this is Loma Rica Road.
So moving back towards the dump site, there's a few homes that are.
Right, they would all remain in District 5. So all that was included is what's within the city
Okay.
limits of Marysville, which is
Great.
the former landfill.
I think that makes sense. Good.
Additional board comment?
Looks good to me.
Okay, then is there a motion?
I would make the motion to approve map number 3.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second to, is it actually, it's not approve, it's to bring back for formal approval? Is that what the motion is?
Yes, that would be
Or-
my recommendation. This is to give staff direction so that we will bring option 3 forward on December 14th in a resolution format for the board to adopt.
Okay. Is that,
I'll amend that. I'll amend that to bring that back in that motion.
and your second is that as well?
Amend the second as
Okay,
well.
then we'll do roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes.
Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
Great, thank you. We have one additional item. I guess this item is not an ordinance or public hearing, right? It's just an item for a resolution. But
I shouldn't call it a continuing resolution, but the resolution is only good for 30 days. And so if the board wants to continue to have the option of teleconference, then the resolution would need to be.
So item 635, 2021, county administrator adopt a resolution to reauthorize the ability to meet remotely in the event application via teleconference through January 6, 2022. So I'll entertain a motion for that.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a first and a second. Is there any public comment on this item? Okay, hearing none, roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Vasquez,
Yes.
Supervisor Blazer,
Yes.
Supervisor Fuhr,
Yes.
Supervisor Bradford,
Yes,
Supervisor Fletcher.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you.
great. And that's it for our meeting. I want to thank the public for coming tonight and for sharing your opinion with us. We appreciate it.